Hi everyone and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
And today we're discussing a particular kind of food from a particular country. But before we get into that, do you have kind of like a country or an area you really love the food from there?
Not really. I like all kinds of different foods. So maybe I'll say American food, Korean food, and Thai food are my favorite.
Okay, cool. I always put Indian food. I mean, of course, there are so many different varieties because it's a big country.
What about Mexican food?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I can't really say that I've had genuine, real Mexican food. Tex-Mex, yes, in kind of California maybe, but never the really stuff. But I've had more like real Indian food in restaurants.
What about Taiwanese food?
It's pretty good.
You like all different kinds of snacks?
I do. I kind of like some of my Feng Li Xia Chou.
Feng Li Xia Chou,
What a brilliant creation to give to the world.
A nice dish.
Superb. But what food are we talking about today? Let's read day one of our article and find out.
Reading. Viva Cubano, celebrating the Cuban sandwich. There's nothing like a sandwich to satisfy your hunger. And when it comes to sandwiches, there's nothing like a Cubano. Take one flavor-filled bite of a Cuban sandwich, and you'll want to eat the rest of it in record time. But what makes a Cuban sandwich so delicious? Let's start with the bread. Cuban bread is baked in a long loaf. It has a hard, thin crust and a soft white center. Many traditional bakers press a moist palmetto leaf onto the bread before it's baked to add flavor. The bread is coated with a little butter or olive oil, and yellow mustard is spread on it. The mustard gives the Cubano a hint of tangy heat that perfectly complements the other ingredients. These ingredients are Swiss or Gouda cheese, pickles, smoked ham, and roasted mojo pork. Other ingredients are sometimes added, but these four make up a classic Cubano. The sandwich is toasted in a flat steel grill called a plancha. The crunchy bread adds to the variety of flavors to make the Cuban sandwich a truly mouth-watering meal.
So the title of the article, or part of it, is Viva Cubano.
What does Viva mean, Pat?
That just means long life to, long live the Cubano, or long live the Cuban sandwich. It's kind of a thing we might say to sort of celebrate it, and we hope it's always going to be there. So the article then begins by saying, there's nothing like a sandwich to satisfy your hunger, and when it comes to sandwiches, there's nothing like a Cubano. So that's quite a long sentence there with a couple of sort of grammar and language points that we're going to take a look at.
今天的 Language in Focus 要讲到的是 There is nothing 的句型。那第一个我们要看到的是 There is nothing like 后面加上名词或是 VING 的这个句型呢，表示没有什么能比得上。所以课文说 There is nothing like a sandwich to satisfy your hunger 没有什么能比得上能够满足饥饿感的三明治了。还有一个是 There is nothing like a Cubano 没有什么能比得上一个古巴三明治了。那另外再给同学们一个例句哦 There is nothing like a glass of iced tea on a hot summer day 没有什么能比得上炎热夏天来一杯冰茶了。那再来我们要看到的是当我们用 There is nothing 加上形容词比较级加上 then 加上名词或 VING 的时候呢，这个句型可以用否定 nothing 这个字加上比较级，然后来表示最高级的含义哦。我们看个例句There is nothing more exciting than seeing my favorite singer in person. 没有什么比亲眼看到我最喜欢的歌手还令人兴奋的事了。那如果你将上述两种句型改为 yes no 问句的时候，我们必须要把 nothing 改为 anything。像是我们拿刚才出现的例句来改写，我们可以说 Is there anything more exciting than seeing your favorite singer in person? 有什么是比亲眼看到自己喜欢的歌手还更兴奋的事呢
So what we said in that sentence was there's nothing like a sandwich to satisfy your hunger. To satisfy your hunger means fill you up, basically, because the word hunger is the feeling or sensation of being hungry. We can also use the word to mean the kind of larger problem of a lack of food affecting people when times are hard. But here it just means, oh, I'm hungry, I'm feeling hunger. For example, only a 12-piece pizza from Pizza Hut can satisfy my hunger today.Hunger
这个名词代表饥饿感，那它的相关字是 hungry， 感到饥饿的，就像是 thirsty， 口渴的，它的名词是 thirst， 口渴的感觉。那还有像是 angry， 生气的，那它的名词是 anger。
And then when we're talking about sandwiches, when it comes to sandwiches, we want a Cubano.And we use the phrase when it comes to mean when this particular matter is under consideration. When we're thinking about this thing, we think about this thing. And it's used to introduce the topic we're discussing and then give a conclusion about it. When it comes to pizzas, I prefer Domino's to Pizza Hut.When
it comes to 加上 VING 的时候代表的是说到时。那当然我们也可以用名词加在 to 的后方。所以当说到 sandwiches 三明治的时候，没什么能比得上一个古巴三明治。那我们来说这几个字哦。第一个 Cubano， 它指的就是古巴三明治。我们也可以用 Cuban 来形容，可以说它是 Cuban sandwich。那形容词 Cuban指的就是古巴的或古巴人的。那国家名称是 Cuba， 指的就是加勒比海北部的群岛国家古巴。
So let's talk about this sandwich. We say, take one flavor-filled bite of a Cuban sandwich and you'll want to eat the rest of it in record time.In record time could mean like, oh, it's a world record. You've won the world record for eating a sandwich quickly. But generally, we just mean it, or we use it to mean very quickly. You'll want to eat the rest in record time. You want to eat it quickly.
也就是非常快速地，所以我们也可以说 After he got the phone call, he rushed home in record time. 代表他非常快速地赶回家。
So yeah, these are very tasty sandwiches.The article then puts the question to us, but what makes a Cuban sandwich so delicious?
Let's start with the bread.
Well, of course, a sandwich has got bread as the sort of main part. And we see Cuban bread is baked in a long loaf. And of course, a loaf is a large piece of bread shaped and baked in one piece, and we'd usually then cut it or slice it before we open it.We could say, for example, the baker put 3 loaves of bread in the oven to bake.
A loaf 那就是一条面包。那复数形呢？去掉 f 加上 vs 变成 loaves.
So what is a Cuban loaf? The article says it has a hard, thin crust and a soft white center. That's the kind of bread it is. When we talk about the crust, we mean the hard outer surface or shell of something. Often it's like bread or pastry. It's the outside part of a bread or a pie or a cake or something. But the earth has a crust as well. It's the rock on the outside that's hard with the liquid rock inside.
那这边课文里面的 crust 指的是面包外层的那个皮啊，所以我们说古巴三明治可以是外酥内软。
Or pizza crust, which is either the bit on the edge that you hold and the base, that kind of thing. We then learn about these Cuban loaves that many traditional bakers press a moist palmetto leaf onto the bread before it's baked to add flavor. So this is a leaf from a kind of tree. They'll put it in the middle of the bread. It kind of gives it a line down the middle as well, but it also adds a little bit of flavor. Now, you don't just put any leaf on it, you put a moist leaf on it. The word moist means damp, a little bit wet. It's not completely soaked in water. It's not been held underwater for a few minutes. It's just a little bit wet, not dry.For example, we could say it had rained the previous night, and even though it had stopped, the ground was still moist. It's not super wet with puddles everywhere, your feet are going to get soaked, but the ground is moist. If you step on it, there'd be a little bit of water.
Moist 这个形容词呢是湿润的，所以我们说啊，传统的古巴面包 Cuban Bread 它在送入烤箱之前会贴上一片湿润的棕榈叶，我们说是 palmetto leaf。那据说呢，这样子的叶子可以增添香气。那另外呢 moist 还可以形容像是蛋糕 cake、饼干 cookies， 代表它们吃起来不会太干，湿湿润润的。
Okay, so we've now got this Cuban loaf. What do we do with it? The article says the bread is coated with a little butter or olive oil, and yellow mustard is spread on it.
我们这边看到两个被动出现哦，第一个是动词 coat， 它做被动用，代表的是在上面涂或是盖上某物。那面包外层呢会涂上奶油或是 olive oil 橄榄油。那另外呢 spread 它是薄薄的涂上，也是个被动态出现。那这边涂上的是一层黄芥末酱 yellow mustard。对呀，然后文章说啊 the mustard gives the Cubano a hint of tangy heat that perfectly complements the other ingredients.
Right, this is all about putting flavors together in this sandwich. So the mustard has a hint of tangy heat. A hint is a suggestion of something. It's a small amount of something. We're not putting loads of it on, and this isn't a really super hot, burn your tongue kind of mustard. It's a hint of mustard. You can taste it, but it's not going to overpower the sandwich and go, oh, this is just all mustard. For example, you could say, I detect a hint of ginger in this cookie.There's a little bit in there, and I might have missed it if I wasn't paying attention, but it's there.
Hint 这边呢当作是少许微量的某物，好，我们就说 a hint of something。那另外呢 hint 还可以是暗示或是提示，像是呢你可能会听到这样子的句子 Did she give you any hints about where her family was? 他们跟你暗示过她的家人到底在哪里呢？ So Pat, what's tangy heat?
Well, we use the word tangy to talk about a pleasantly strong flavor or smell. Again, we're not overpowering here. This isn't heat like biting into a red chili or having mala hot pot or anything like that. This is just that sort of, oh, it's strong. I can taste it on my tongue. It's nice. It's pleasantly strong, but it's not going to completely blast me and make me feel like I can't eat this.
所以 tangy 这个形容词呢代表是味道浓烈的 and that flavor can perfectly complement the other ingredients.
That is correct. Now here we're using complement, but it's got an E, C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T. And when we use complement with this spelling, we mean go well with. They kind of both improve the flavor of each other. Like you put these two things together and both end up tasting better because of it. Like French fries with ketchup. Fantastic combination. Or, to use the one I mentioned earlier, pineapple and shrimp. 凤梨虾球。
没错，那 complement 中间注意哦是 e 的拼音哦，它代表的是与点点点相配或是为点点点增色。像是我们可以说 A and B complement each other perfectly， 两者非常搭配。那如果中间是 I 的话 C-O-M-P-L-I-M-E-N-T， 那就是给人家称赞。
Oh, you look nice today.
对，没错。那这边给同学们一个中间是 e complement 这个字的例句哦，像是呢，我可以说 I think blueberries and chocolate complement each other perfectly.
I'd say chocolate and nuts. Okay, but all we're talking about here is different ingredients.
Yes.
So when we're talking about an ingredient, we mean a food that goes into making other foods. Sometimes it's just for flavor. Sometimes it's the main ingredient that you're going to taste a lot of. Sometimes you'll cut it up or cook it in a different way, but all the things you add to this whole dish are the ingredients. For example, the ingredients you need for a cake include flour, butter, eggs, and sugar.
Ingredient 这个名词呢，代表的是食品的成分材料，所以课文说到啊，芥末酱的浓烈味道和其他的食材完美搭配。What are the other ingredients?
Okay, we've got a bit of a list here. These ingredients are Swiss or Gouda cheese, pickles, smoked ham, and roasted mojo pork.
哇，好多不同的食材啊！我们首先看到的是瑞士起司 （Swiss cheese）， 还有就是 Gouda cheese 高达起司，还有 pickles 腌黄瓜 ，smoked ham 那就是烟熏火腿。然后我们还看到一种酱料叫做 mojo。Mojo sauce 它是一种古巴或是西班牙的料理酱汁。那还有看到的是 roasted mojo pork 酱烤猪肉。
Okay, and when we describe something as roasted, we mean it's been cooked with dry heat in an oven or over a fire, and the food is not covered up. It's not been like wrapped in anything, it's just roasted. We often just say roast without the ed, roast chicken, roast beef, etc. Here's an example sentence. The pieces of roasted duck were put in thin skins with onions and sauce.
所以说呢 roasted 或是 roast 都可以当形容词来用，代表烤的。
Okay, so we've listed those there. The article says other ingredients are sometimes added, but these four, the cheese, the pickles, the ham, and the pork, make up a classic Cubano. And when we use this phrasal verb to make up something, we mean to combine together to make this thing. It's used to show the total or final result when two or more things are put together.
A make up B 代表 A 组成 B 或是 A 构成 B. So the four ingredients make up a classic Cubano. 这四种食材组成一个经典的古巴三明治。那这个是主动的用法。如果是被动呢，我们要用的是 B is made up of A. 所以我们也可以说 a classic Cubano is made up of these four ingredients.
Okay, but you don't just eat it once they've put the ingredients on, okay? So yeah, mustard, then cheese, pickles, ham, pork. But then what happens? The article says the sandwich is toasted in a flat steel grill called a plancha. A grill is a flat, hot surface. It could be a flat plate, it could be metal bars, it could be kind of crossed metal bars. You'd use a grill when you're barbecuing or when you put something in the oven, and this will toast the bread, so it'll make it hot and crispy and all the rest, and the cheese will melt a bit, and oh, this is already sounding great.
哇，你烤肉的时候用的烤架就是 grill.
And the article then says, the crunchy bread adds to the variety of flavors to make the Cuban sandwich a truly mouth-watering meal. So toasting the bread, remember it's got that olive oil or butter on the outside of it, that coat, that will make it crunchy. Crunchy means it's hard enough so that it makes a sound when you bite it, and you can feel it when you bite in and press on it. Think of toast, chips, a hard kind of biscuit or cookie. It's got that kind of thing to it. That's crunchy.
没错，所以用 grill 烤过的面包特别 crunchy。crunchy 这个形容词就是食物很松脆的 ，and it adds to the flavors.
Exactly. If you add to something, you're making that thing better, larger. You're improving it in some way.
Add to something 代表是使某物更大或更好，像是我们可以说 the interesting characters add to the story， 代表有趣的角色让故事更精彩。
So I'm sure you guys are now all feeling very hungry after listening to that. Elsie and I are as well. So we're going to stop the article here. We'll learn about the history of the Cubano tomorrow. But before we can go off and eat, however, we've got to go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the chat question is simply, have you ever tried a Cuban sandwich? Did you enjoy it? Why or why not?
I have tried once and I feel it's like a Subway sandwich, but more flavorful.
Okay.
And has that roasted smell on it.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Right, it's crunchier.
Now, as most of you guys know, if you've been watching us teaching for any amount of time, I don't eat meat, so I can't say I've ever tried a classic Cubano because I don't eat pork, I don't eat ham. But there are a few places that I've seen where they do a vegetarian version. They use like onions, peppers, as well as the cheese and the pickle. And they put a couple of other things in there to make a vegetarian version. So it's not really a Cubano. It's got some of the same taste with the mushroom and stuff. So I did enjoy it. I would eat it again. But I can't really claim to have eaten the real classic. Maybe someday I'll just go, oh, all right, give it a try and see if I like the meat in it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. Who knows? But that's all we have time for today. Join us again tomorrow for part 2 of our article and the history of the Cubano. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Hunger. A big lunch of a hamburger, a salad, and French fries still didn't satisfy my hunger. Loaf. Vivienne bought a loaf of French bread to cut into pieces for the party. Moist. The air was moist and small drops of water formed on the windows. Hint. This water has a hint of lemon in it, which makes it taste fresh. Ingredient. I have all the ingredients to make a chocolate cake. Let's mix them together and start baking. Roasted. The vegetables in this spaghetti aren't fried, but roasted for a nice rich flavor.
智慧小补帖
Crust. Tangy. Compliment. Grill. Crunchy.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net